So good morning everyone. So welcome to the lecture 4 of Grid and Cloud Computing. So in this lecture we'll discuss about the definition of cloud computing provided by IBM. Second one we'll discuss about various services of cloud computing. Third part we'll discuss about one of the important thing that is called as service oriented architecture or called as SOA. Okay, and also we'll discuss about what kind of things you can implement in Mondays lab, right? So I'll give some highlight of the lab experiment so that you will implement that thing in your Mondays lab, right? So let us see, as you know that for cloud computing, just I gave one example, that is your Gmail, right? So in order to access your Gmail, what you require internet. So without internet, it is practically not possible, right? To view your emails or open your Facebook account, or you are using WhatsApp, you cannot open, right? These are various applications are provided by cloud computing. So if you go for IBM, right, IBM suggested this definition of cloud, right? Let us try to understand. A cloud is a pool of virtualized computer resources. What do you mean by pool? So earlier you have heard about swimming pool, right? So cloud is nothing but a pool of virtualized computer resources, right? So whatever computer resources are there, like storage, or it may be memory, or it may be processor, these are delivered to the user online in a virtualized form, right? That's why cloud is nothing but a pool of virtualized computer resources. Like whenever you will visit to a auto stand or a bus stand, okay, you will see there are so many buses are there or so many autos are there to hire, right? So that can be also considered a pool of autos or pool of, we can say, pool of buses, right? Similarly, whenever you are talking about cloud case, that is nothing but pool of virtualized computer resources. And the next line says that a cloud can host a variety of different workloads. It can solve various workloads. For example, if two users want to access cloud computing, right, they have different requirements. Whatever your requirement, it is not same as other person's requirement. So whenever you are hosting that application, right? So cloud can host, if two users are there, it can host different workloads. For example, first person want to execute something about 2 GB, second person want to execute something about 5 GB. So their workloads are different, right? So cloud can host both users at the same time. Like that, cloud can use many users at the same time, right? How it will do? It will do by the help of the process of batch processing. Batch processing means I will maintain a particular queue. Like you have seen, there is a queue in front of a temple, right? People are standing in the line, and one by one they are entering to a particular temple, right? So similarly, user's request can be placed in a particular queue, like that user 1 is there, user 2 is there, user 3 is there, user 4 is there, user 5 is there. If a new user is coming, so the new user will be added at the end of the queue. If a user has visited some place, so I visited that temple, then I will delete the user from the front of the queue, right? So you can maintain a batch style, or you can enter as an interactive style. As you can see here, user is submitting the request to the cloud, and cloud is also providing that services for which the user is going to pay for that service. Like for example, Gmail will say that for a year you have to pay 100 rupees. So what you will do you will access the Gmail. You can access the Gmail for a particular year. For the use of this particular user, you have to pay at the end of the year. You have to pay 100 rupees, right? So that is called as a paid service. But Gmail is free, so you are not paying up to some limit like 15 GB, right? So you can hire hardware, you can hire storage, you can hire service, various services, maybe software, maybe network. That's why it is called as pool of virtualized computer resources. And this interaction is a self-service basis. Like whenever you visit a particular restaurant or a particular mall, that is called a self-service. You have to collect your items, you have to put in a cart, and finally you have to go to checkout. Nobody is going to help you, right? In that manner, cloud is called as a self-service. You have, if you want to access something, you have to create an account, you have to use the service, you have to pay for that service, and you will get that service. Now, if you go for cloud's various services, one type of categorization says that cloud provided three types of services. First one is called as infrastructure as a service. So in general term, infrastructure means a particular, suppose you are concentrating on your university or a particular institute, then whatever buildings are there, that is called as infrastructure. But in computer term, infrastructure is nothing but our server and the storage available in that server, or the networks, or you can say data center. In a global form, you can say data center. Inside data center, I told you, inside data center, you have several servers, right? Like I told you, a typical data center is having 50,000 servers, right? So that is the first part of services you can hire from a cloud service, right? So if you want to use infrastructure as a service, what you have to do, the cloud service provider will give you a virtual machine, right? Whatever your requirement is there, for example, my requirement is 2 GB of RAM, or I will say 15 GB of hard disk, right? 15 GB of storage. Then cloud computing will provide this package with the use of a virtual machine. So this is the first service provided by cloud computing. Second type is called as your platform. How you are running your application, how you are running your MS Word, how you are running your WhatsApp, how you are running your Facebook, because of a operating system is installed in your phone, or a operating system is installed in your laptop, right? Similarly, in cloud computing, you can also purchase platform in which you can deploy your applications. So this platform is nothing but, I told you in the last class also, middleware. Middleware is a thing that is a user want to access the cloud, and in between the user and cloud, there is something that is called as middleware. Okay, so that user will not feel that the entire infrastructure, whatever provided by the provider, that is a complex one, right? Similarly, Web 2.0, I told you, Web 2.0 is a technology by which you can access the cloud services, or the Java. Many applications, you know, whenever you want to use that application, you have to install the Java. Okay, so that Java is nothing but our platform as a service. Similarly, the third type of service is called as a software as a service. In software as a service, what happens? We are using Gmail, we are using Facebook, right? We are using Twitter, we are using WhatsApp. These are called as our software as a service, right? In this software as a service, what you will do, you can do business processes, you can do industrial application, you can also do customer relationship management, you can manage various customers, right, by using a web portal, or you can go for a enterprise resource planning, or you can go for a human resources, or you can go for collaborative applications. So for the time being, you can say whatever Gmail you are using, or Flickr you are using, or Twitter you are using, or WhatsApp you are using, that can be considered as a software as a service. So a user may request for the infrastructure as a service, a user may request for the platform also, a user may request for the software as a service. For example, licensing a particular software is very, if you want to purchase a licensed software, it is very costly. At the same time, if you want to use that software using cloud for a particular period of time, then the cost of the software is drastically reduced, right? For example, let us consider one software you may have heard, that is called as MATLAB. So for example, MATLAB cost is, let's say, 10 lakh, right? So I don't want to purchase this particular software because I cannot afford 10 lakhs, right? So what I will do, I will use cloud services. If cloud is providing the software, then I'll use that cloud services is for, let's say, 30 days. For 30 days, whatever subscription charge is there, that I am going to pay. So that price is a nominal one in comparison to this big price. So such type of facility you will get for software as a service. So for which, if you see in an industrial perspective, industrial, they are using customer relationship management, or HR, human resources there, or ERP, enterprise resource planning. Everything can be managed by a software as a service. So in this context, if you see, there are different types. In this diagram summarizes the three types of service. First one is called as your infrastructure as a service. In infrastructure as a service, Amazon EC2 is there, or GoGrid is there, right? These are the service provider. Like you are getting internet by the, you are getting the internet because of the Geo is a provider, Vodafone is a provider, BSNL is a provider. Similarly, if you are interested in infrastructure as a service, you can purchase from Amazon, or a GoGrid is a cloud service provider in which you can purchase your resources. Similarly, if you want to interested for platform as a service, Google is providing a platform as a service. Cloudera is a popular platform. It is also providing platform as a service. Similarly, software as a service is nothing but your Google Docs, Gmail, Facebook, everything come under your software as a service, right? Now, another classification says that cloud computing services are divided into four parts. So this is based upon the word that is called as deployment model. How you are deploying cloud, that is called as a four deployment model. And previous one, whatever we discussed, that is called infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. These are called as services, right? Various services, right? That is services, service wise, there are different type of classification. This is with respect to the deployment model, how you are deploying to the cloud. For example, somebody is using, like I am using Sanjay, my name is Sanjay, and suppose I am using a email ID that is sanjay at nitw.sc.in. So if you see, this email ID is given to a particular employee or a particular staff or a particular student who is a part of nitw.sc.in. If a user is not a part of nitw.sc.in, then NITW is not going to provide a email ID to that particular user. So that is nothing but is a private one, right? One organization's email ID cannot be used if a particular person is not directly related to that organization. But coming back to the public cloud, you know, you are using gmail.com. I am also using gmail.com. So anybody exists in this earth can create the gmail.com, right? So that type of cloud is called as public cloud, right? Anyone can access that cloud. Similarly, third one is called as managed cloud. Managed cloud is also sometimes called as community cloud. Community cloud says that for example, let us consider a company. That company is called as TCS, right? TCS has three branches. One is, let's say, at Hyderabad. Another one is, let's say, Delhi. Another one, let's say, in Mumbai, right? So there are three branches, right? One project is assigned to TCS in order to execute it. For example, project one is assigned to TCS. So what TCS will do? TCS is assigning this documentation work to Hyderabad office. Let's say implementation part to the implement part to the second Delhi office, and maintenance part to the Mumbai office. So it is dividing this project one into three parts. Some parts is done at Hyderabad, some parts is done at Delhi, some part is done at Mumbai, right? So in that case, these three offices can use a cloud computing that is called as a managed cloud, or sometimes called as a community cloud, right? The last one is you can combine this private cloud or public cloud or some one cloud with another cloud, which we call as a hybrid cloud, right? So in this way, there are four type of categorization. So for example, if you go for private cloud is again two types. One is called as off-premises, one is called as premises. Okay, another is called as on-premises cloud, right? What is the difference? On-premises, I told you, if you are using an email ID of a particular institute like NITW is a part of NITW, so that is a private cloud. So whenever you are talking about such thing, this email server, that is nitw.ac.in, may be present inside the NITW boundary, right? If it is available inside a boundary of an organization, then it is called as on-premises private cloud. But sometimes what happens, the institute may not manage, okay, institute cannot manage the email server. So what it will say, it will request to Google, right? Or like nowadays in NITW also, we have whatever email ID is there, that is a part of Google only. So we request Google that I want to provide an email ID to my staff, my faculty member, my student. You please provide the service, but that should be available to our NITW domain only. So at that time, this email server is not within the boundary of the organization. So it is with the Google. In that case, you can say that is called as your off-premises cloud. So if you want to adopt cloud computing, these are the suitable regions where you can access to the cloud computing. the adaptability depends upon these particular 8 regions. First is desired location. With respect to any location, you can deploy the cloud computing. Somebody want to access cloud in Warangal, or somebody want to access in New Delhi, somebody want to access at Mumbai, you can do. And you will get a protected space and higher energy efficiency. Whatever space is assigned to you, that cannot be assigned to other, or other person cannot view that particular space. So in that manner, it is a protected space. Second one is sharing a peak load capacity. For example, if you see Flipkart is launching one offer that is called as Big Billion Day. You may heard about this Big Billion Day. So if you see in Flipkart, Big Billion Day, suppose Flipkart is using 500 server per day, right? Let us assume that it is using 500 server per day. So if Flipkart is launching Big Billion Day, so what will happen on that day? Maximum people will visit to Flipkart, right? Because this uh, people will visit Flipkart because in Big Billion Day there are so many discounts, right? So each and every item you will get discount. So on that day, Flipkart want to enhance the 500 server to 1000 server in order to handle the users, right? So that is nothing but the peak load capacity. The capacity is changed because of this Big Billion Day. So once the Big Billion Day is over, or 2-3 days after Big Billion Day, again Flipkart require only 500 server. Flipkart does not require 1000 server. So Flipkart cannot purchase 500 server in order to launch the Big Billion Day. So that can be done, right, by the help of cloud computing. You can expand to a big number and you can shrink to a small number as per your need. Next one is separation of infrastructure maintenance. If you are having 5-6 server, then you have to manage that server, right? Without managing the server, you cannot provide the services to the user. So such maintenance, as user is subscribing to the cloud, user is not maintaining that, as cloud is going to maintain this. So the maintenance cost is also drastically reduced, right? You do not care about whether the maintenance is done or not. It is the responsibility of the cloud that they will maintain these resources and they will provide the security features to the user. Next one is significant reduction of the cloud computing cost. Yes, obviously, if Flipkart will purchase 500 server for 2-3 days, then it is very difficult for the Flipkart to run its business. So now, by adopting the cloud computing, the cost of the Flipkart is drastically reduced, because whatever cost Flipkart will spend to increase 500 server to 1000 server. Now it is not going to purchase 500 server. It want to access 500 extra server from the cloud, and for the 2-3 days after that, it will return to the cloud, right? So these are the 4 regions. Next 4 region is cloud computing, programming and application development. So there are so many programming languages are there. There are so many application developments are there. One user is writing an application in Linux platform. Another user is writing application in the Windows platform. So whenever you will say the platform compatibility, there may be an issue. So cloud computing can solve that platform issues by providing various services. Next one is service and data discovery and content service distributions. So whatever services is delivered to you, that services is available for you for 24/7. At any point of time, if you want to access the cloud computing services, you can do it. Similarly, privacy, security, copyright and reliability issues will be there if you are managing the server or your computer system. For example, you are using your desktop and laptop. If something is happened to that laptop, you are going to pay for that service. But if it is managed by cloud, so you need not bother about these issues. Similarly, next one is service agreement, business model and pricing policies, right? Service agreement means, last class also I told you about service level agreement. So before doing something, you have to sign in a agreement that is called a service level agreement, which is a contract between a user and with the cloud service provider. Okay, so that anything is written in that document will be viewed if there is a conflict among the user and cloud service provider. So these are the various regions in book to book. These regions will vary, and this will be helpful to you to adopt the cloud computing. So before starting SOA, so I'm launching one poll. Please answer. So I'll join after 2 minutes. What is the correct answer? Can anybody respond?
Service oriented
Service
architecture.
oriented.
So what are the deployment models we have discussed? Can anybody answer? What are the deployment models?
Private, public, managed, and hybrid.
Okay.
Managed hybrid.
Okay. So I'm launching second poll. So please answer to the second poll. Actually, this question should come first. Okay. Please answer this one. Which one is not a deployment model? Not a deployment model. Try to understand the question. Which one is not a deployment model? Okay, I'm stopping the poll, right? So which one is the correct answer?
Protected, sir.
That is protected is saying that protected space we require, right? But that is not a deployment model. As you know that in C++ also, you know about public, private, and protected, right? That's why I've added the protected one. But protected, there is no deployment model, right? So anything you want to ask in the before start this service-oriented architecture? Any clarification is required? Are you able to getting this concept, right? What is cloud? What are the different deployments model? What are different service models? What are the service models? Can anybody respond? What are the service models?
Infrastructure as a service.
Yes, next.
Platform as a service.
Next.
Software as a service.
So another thing is that people are nowadays also called as XaaS by saying everything as a service. X indicates everything or anything can be considered as a service. People are saying healthcare as a service. Now COVID situation is going on, right? People are saying that COVID-19, that is a part of healthcare as a service. People are implementing in agriculture sector, and they are saying agriculture as a service. People are using in IoT field, they are saying sensor as a service, IoT as a service, like that, everything will go on, right? So service-oriented architecture is a layered architecture. So if you remember in computer network, you have studied something called OSI ISO reference model, if you remember. How many layers are there in OSI ISO reference model? Can anybody respond?
7.
7 layers. What are the layers?
Application layer,
No, you
presentation
start from the
layer,
bottom. Start from the bottom. Physical layer,
physical layer,
data link layer. Yes,
network layer,
yes.
transport layer,
Next,
session layer,
yes.
presentation layer, and application layer.
Very good. Okay, so these are the 7 layers. Similarly, service-oriented architecture is having several layers. So you know, in each and every layer, you are using some protocol like TCP you are using, or IP you are using, or HTTP. In day-to-day life, we are using HTTP. So these are the protocols we are using with respect to the layer, which is present in the bottommost layer of service-oriented architecture, right? So that is called as bit level internet. Okay, that is internet layer. Some people are referring OSI ISO reference model as a bit level layer, right? Similarly, in the top part, whatever everything in that any architecture, if you go, the top part is nothing but the application. Any kind of application. For example, you want to access Microsoft Word, you want to use MATLAB, you want to learn Python, you want to do, these are called the various applications which is hosted in a particular level, right? So application specific services, any application specific services or grids is in the top part of the service oriented architecture. Okay. Next is any useful services of the grid, service management, how you will manage these services. For example, you are not only the user who is accessing Gmail, many people are using Gmail. So if 1 billion, 1 billion, or let's say 1 million or many million people are using these Gmail services, so how you are going to manage the services? That's why you require service management. How one person can locate a particular service and get the information, right? For example, many people are not aware of any public website, right? So how you will make the people to discover a particular information, okay, or how the people will know whether the resources are available or not, right? So similar kind of services are provided in the topmost layer of the service oriented architecture. So before going to the service oriented architecture, in the next slide better I will explain. So service oriented architecture in a non-technical example I will give you, so that you will understand. For example, you are placing an order in Flipkart, right? In Flipkart, you have placed a particular order, right? Order is received by Flipkart, right? So Flipkart has many facilitated center, right? Flipkart has no single center, right? One center may be at Kolkata, another center may be at Hyderabad, another center may be at Delhi, another center may be at Chennai. Okay, there are several places at Bangalore, something like that. Suppose whatever item you have ordered, that is available in, let's say in some cities like, let's say Delhi, or let's say Chennai, right? Chennai, that product is available, right? So what I will do, what Flipkart will do, Flipkart will inform the Chennai facilitated center that a person X with address Y, okay, has ordered this particular item, so you please see the order. So once what Chennai people will do, Chennai people will pack that particular pack and they will give to the courier, or let's say Indian Post, or say delivery. Okay, whatever the courier systems are, Blue Dart, right? So what this Blue Dart people will do, they will transport to your location Y, right? That is nothing but, let's say, Warangal, right? So in between that, there are several centers are there, right? Chennai center will send to, let's say, Hyderabad center again, that Blue Dart courier, Chennai center will send to Hyderabad center, Hyderabad again will send to the Warangal center, Warangal will send to your local center, something like that. After that, the product is received to Y, your address Y, then only you will get the services. If you see this complete system, many people are involved in order to execute a particular order, right? So there is no single person who is involved into getting this product. There are many people who have involved in this product. In order to avoid this gap, that is Flipkart to a courier service, courier to another courier service, courier to another courier service, again courier to the user, in order to integrate this thing into a single platform, That is, Flipkart is going to take care of everything. What you need? You need service-oriented architecture, which is a layered architecture, right? So it uses your traditional 7 OSI layer. Okay. For implementing the SOA, what you require? You require a language. That language is called as WSDL, Web Service Description Language. So WSDL language, if you see, if you go to any language, if you go, there is a particular format. So the language, whatever used by service-oriented architecture, if you want to learn that language, you should comfortable in XML. So I think you people know a little bit about XML. Everything is written in the form of XML and /XML, right? Or HTML/HTML you are using for HTML. For XML, we are using XML/XML. Everything you should write in between that, right? And if you want to communicate, like I told you, Flipkart is having several centers. So like that, a particular service-oriented architecture, also you have several components. So one component may be interacted with another component in order to solve a particular problem. So how they will communicate each other? They are communicating through remote procedure call, right? Next is fault tolerance. Fault tolerance, I told you in the last class also, if a system is failed or a component is failed, it should not lead to crash of the system. Entire system should not be collapsed. If such a things are happen, then you can say the system is fault tolerant, for which there is a framework used in the service-oriented architecture that is called as WSRM framework, Web Service Reliable Messaging Framework. This framework mimic our traditional OSI or ISO reference models capability. Whatever capability is there in the OSI ISO reference model, the same thing you can achieve through this particular framework. So in order to make this SOA platform or SOA boundary in a safer place, okay, so nobody should attack to your platform. So what you need various security measures, right? For security measure, we are using one of the very famous protocol that is called as IPsec, that is called as Internet Protocol Security. So that is used, this is used in the SOA platform so that one cannot take or one cannot interfere between the execution of service-oriented architecture. So SOA is also coming under your distributed system. SOA enables the cloud to provide various services, right? So earlier SOA uses Java you know, right? And CORBA architecture, that is called as Common Object Request Broker architecture. Earlier people are using CORBA architecture or Java architecture, but nowadays people are using one very famous protocol that is called as SOAP, that is called as Simple Object Access Protocol. By using this protocol, you can provide various services in cloud. Okay, so SOA is using your XML platform. SOA is also using another protocol that is called as REST, Representational State Transfer, and REST. We'll see more about this SOAP protocol, how they are writing in the later chapters. Okay, if you see REST, so that is a minimal information in the header. So like everything, like in email also, you have a subject part, okay, and you have a body part. Subject part should contain the minimal information, right? Similarly, REST case, okay, header part contain the minimum information, and body part you have maximum information. You have to write in the body part. How will write in the body part? You have to use a XML. That is defined under your WSDL language, as mentioned in the previous slide. So why SOA was evolved, why SOA was invented, or why SOA was developed? Because any platform you are using, whether you want to build grid computing, or you want to go for cloud computing, or you want to go for grid of cloud computing, or cloud of grid computing, cloud of cloud, or any systems to the system, you have to, in the backend, you have to use your service-oriented architecture so that an integrated framework can be provided to the user, right? So I'll tell you another example here. So as you can see, if you see in the first part, there are raw data are there. There may be agriculture field, there may be a cricket field, there may be a database, there may be a power grid, there may be a satellite where you can get your data, right? So by using a sensor service, so these SS stands for your sensor service. So in each and every field, I have deployed a particular sensor service in order to collect the data. Like aeroplane is going, so I am collecting the data of aeroplane. A train is going from a source to destination. I am collecting the data of the train. I am using my mobile phone. I am collecting as a sensor. By the help of sensor, I am collecting the data, right? Or I am using a satellite application also. I am deploying a particular sensor to get the data. Once the sensor collect this data, all the data collected by the sensor may not be useful, right? Whatever things is there in a is captured by a particular sensor node, all may not be useful. That's why what we require filter service in order to delete few information and in order to accept the meaningful information, right? So whatever sensor nodes are there, they are connected to FS. FS stands for a filter or a transforming services by which unwanted information can be discarded. Once unwanted information you are discarding, it is assigned to a inter-service message or a discovery cloud. So that in a portal, like your student may have a portal, each student is paying the fee, each student can view the mark sheet, each student can view the result, each student can give the feedback through a particular portal, right? So everything should be available in a portal. So any user using laptop or desktop, or you may be a PDA, or it may be any tablet or anything, where you can access this portal to get the information about the complete picture, right? So this is the way that SOA is, that's why SOA was invented, so that various sensor services, okay, these sensors, maybe the Zigbee is an example of your sensor services, or you can use Bluetooth. Nowadays we are using Wi-Fi or hotspot, right? Personal computer, GPA, wireless phone. So why we are using this one? This was we are using to collect the data. And why filter services are used? Filter services are used to remove the unwanted information, right? So if you see that the difference between the grid and cloud computing, right? What I told you, grid computing uses heterogeneous structure, cloud computing also uses heterogeneous services, right? Grid computing also provide virtualization, cloud computing also provide virtualization, but grid is specifically used for scientific and engineering application, like we discussed SCTI at home in the last class. Okay, but in cloud computing, it is purely based upon the business basis. Any business application you want to run, so you can hire cloud computing in order to get the services. Next is, if you come to, if you want to go for a distributed operating system says that in a particular network, if whatever the nodes they are participating into the computer network, okay, for example, I told in a particular lab, you have 30 computer systems, right? In these 30 computer system, I want to install operating system. So there is a server, right? A server is attached to these 30 computer system. So whenever you switch on a particular computer system, one instance from the server is created in your local machine, right? Like that, a particular server is attached to 30 computer systems. Whenever 30 computer systems are run that on, so one instance of the server, one instance of the operating system from the server is installed in the client machine, right? So why we are using this system as a cluster or a distributed system? Because we can provide, we can share the resources, we can share our load, we can share our communications as well, right? So whenever we are talking about these distributed operating systems, you have to ensure few design goals. Last class also we discussed about few design goals. First one is performance. Performance says that, like HTC, I told about high throughput computing. High throughput computing says that how much work you are completing per second, or how much work you are completing per minute. Like a student performance, you are judging by CGPA or SGPA, or by conducting mid exam or MSEM exam. Similarly, performance is a criteria in order to evaluate the distributed system. Efficiency of the system is very much important. How much time the system is busy, 80% of time or 70% of time or 40% of time, that you have to take care. Another is called as flexibility. The system should be flexible. I told that Flipkart increases 500 server to, let's say, 1000 server in the Big Billion Day. Once Big Billion Day is over, after 2-3 days, it is again revert back to 500 server. So you have to take care of these parameters while you are doing the distributed operating system. So there are three approaches. What you have to do? First, you have to create a particular network. All the computer systems should be attached to a particular network, and by the help of that network, the server can give the operating system to instance of the operating system to this computer system. That is called as building the network operating system. And another important part is middleware, right? Middleware is required because users don't want to see this particular complexity of the infrastructure. User don't want to go through this infrastructure. User want to access only the computer in which it will get the service without going to the entire infrastructure, right? So in order to provide, which is called as your single system image that we discussed. So this single system image can be provided by the help of middleware. So one of the example of your middleware is called MOSIX class operating system, and DCE, that is called as distributed computing environment. These are the middlewares are used to avoid the complexity of the infrastructure. The last one is you have to go for truly distributed operating system. For example, MOSIX 2 is an example of this distributed operating system, which provides not fully single system image, but it is giving partially single system image. Now, if you see, there are many developments about distributed operating system. For example, if you see here one university, Bridge University. So these university professors and students developed one operating system that is called AMOEBA. Similarly, Open Software Foundation is an organization that developed the DCE and OSF1. So these are the operating system name, like you have Windows operating system, Linux operating system, Mac operating system. Similarly, Hebrew University, they have developed this MOSIX operating system, and their year is also mentioned. 1977 they developed this particular operating system. 1995 people have written in C, they developed this operating system. So this slide will give you that what are the operating systems people have developed in the last 20 or 30 years, right? Or last 40 years what people have done, right? So their history we can see their distributed architecture also, whether they are using kernel or microkernel, whether they are providing microservice or microservice, whether they are using what kind of servers they are using, what kind of protocols they are using, okay, or whether they are using the remote procedure call, right? Remote procedure call you can call like operating system. You have studied something called a system call, right? Get services, put services, something like that. So similarly here also using RPC, right? Similarly, you can also view in what way the operating system kernel and middleware and this virtualization support of these three systems are different from each other. For example, you can see that DC is used here. Here MOSIX 2 is used. MOSIX 2 is generally used in the Linux 2.6 version. It is a very quite old version. Nowadays we have Ubuntu. Okay, so many latest development is there in the system, right? So these are the difference. You can see there are so many distributed operating systems are there, but here we have compared three operating systems with their various functionalities. So now if you see what we are doing in this service-oriented architecture of cloud computing, we have a hardware layer. This hardware layer you can call it a data center, right? In data center there are many servers are there, right? Many servers are there. Similarly, if you consider the grid computing, I told in grid computing like SCTI at home, 3 million computer systems are live at any point of time. These 3 billion computers are not owned by this grid computing structure. They are voluntary job. So how people are giving the resources to the, how people are giving these resources, they are simply connecting their devices, handheld devices like maybe mobile phone, maybe your laptop, or maybe any devices which is connected to internet, and whatever processing power is there, that processing power we are giving to the grid. So in order to increase the efficiency of the system, what you are doing, you are creating the operating system, various operating systems that we have seen in the virtualization architecture. So rather than going for the physical machine, people are not using the physical machine. So what we are using on top of the physical machine, we are creating logical machines. That is nothing but our virtual machines, so that maximum user can use the resources, and the resources also efficiency of the resources also improve. And in each and operating system, whatever you have created, In that operating system, you can run any application. It may be a Mozilla Firefox application, it may be an antivirus application, it may be a Microsoft Word application, or it may be any open source applications, right? So that user can access to the application layer. User has no idea about this particular layers, right? User do not care about this particular layer. User is simply using this application on top of an operating system. So how you can do it? You can do by the help of these programming languages. Like you heard about C language, C++ language, Fortran language, Pascal language. So if you want to implement parallel distributed programming model, you can use these languages. Like MPI is a language. You please note down in the Monday class, we'll see what is MPI. That is called as message passing interface. What message passing interface is? For example, you want to multiply two matrices. So all of you know how to multiply two matrices. In order to multiply two matrices, what is the condition? Can anybody say what is the condition? If the order of the matrix is A cross B and C cross D, what is the condition for matrix multiplication? Can anybody respond?
B is equals to C.
B is equal to C and resultant matrix is A cross D. So how you are multiplying? You are multiplying the first row with first column, right? Second, you are multiplying first row with second column, first row with the last column, right? Next, you are multiplying second row with first column, second row with second column, second row with the last column. So try to understand, if I represent this is by 1 and this is by 2, this is by 3, this is by 4. So first you will go for 1, 2, next you go for 1, 3, next you go for 1, 4, right? So these are the three operations you are doing. Fortunately, these three operations are not dependent on each other. Like I told you in some class, you are writing C is equal to A plus B and C minus B is equal to D. So these two instructions are independent, not independent of each other, because until unless you calculate by the value of C, you cannot evaluate this statement. But here 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 are completely independent. So why not we create three processors instead of using one processor? Why not we create three processors and we can run this 1, 2 here in one processor, 1, 3 in one processor, 1, 4 in another processor, so that all the works can be completed at the same time. Or in a faster way, you can compute the matrix multiplication. So in Monday class, you try to go through the MPI programming. Some of the commands are there with respect to MPI. You try to learn. In tomorrow you have the holiday, so you try to learn MPI and try to implement the matrix multiplication using MPI, not using C++ in Monday's assignment. If it is not possible, then I will help you, right? Similarly, another programming is also used in the distributed computing, that is called as MapReduce. I will give an example in the next slide. Next type of platform you can also use, that is called as Hadoop, that is used for the big data applications. So these are the various tools that is used for the distributed computing work. I'll tell you this thing. Okay. Is there anything anyone want to highlight? Okay. So try to understand. Now let us come to the MapReduce program. What MapReduce says, one input is given to you, like I told you, one matrix is given to you. What you have to do, you have to create the map task. Map task, what happened? A single task, if you say single task, now decomposed into three parts. One is first map, second is second map, third is third map. So these are called as map tasks. After that, what happened? Similar to the map task, we want to share the results. Whatever available in this map task, we will want to assign that result to the reduce task, right? I will give an example so the idea is more clear. So all the modules, if you see, this module is connected to reduce one, this module is also connected to the reduce one. Similarly, this particular module is also connected to both the reduce, right? So that reduce can complete the things and finally one output can be generated. So if you see here, let us take an example. For example, a text file is given to you. A text file is given to you. That text file, it is written that dear beer river, car river, dear car beer. So with respect to a single line, what I did, I am first applying a splitting procedure. Splitting procedure says that divide the text file into three parts. So I have divided the text file into three parts. First part is contain the dear beer river. Second part contain the car river. Third part contain the dear car river. Right? Then I am applying the mapping function. What mapping function says that? Mapping function says that what is the occurrence of each and every word. You can see beer is repeated one times, beer is repeated one times, river is repeated one times. So that is taken care by this map function. So map function uses a key and value pair. Key and value pair. Key is my deer, its value is 1. Beer is my key pair and its value is 1. Similarly, car, river, car is repeated one time, car is again repeated one time. So you can say car is also repeated 2 times here, right? And river is repeated one time. Similarly, in the third case, deer is repeated one time, car is repeated one time, beer is repeated one time. Then what you will do? This particular shuffling function, what it is doing? It is connected to here, so that it is saying beer is repeated one time here, right? And this particular component also, beer is updated, beer is repeated one time. Similarly, this particular function, shuffling function is connected to this particular unit. This particular unit says that car is repeated one time, again car is repeated one time, and here car is repeated one time, right? Now I want to apply a reduce function. Reduce function says that how many times beer is repeated. So beer is repeated 2 times. Here car is repeated 3 times. Deer is repeated 2 times and river is repeated 2 times. So first, what you have done with respect to one line, you have done splitting. Then you have applied a mapping function in order to say that key count of each and every word. Then you are giving the results with respect to, like here one module you have developed for beer. Here you have developed car module. Here you have developed deer module. Here you have developed the river module, and you have counted how many times it is repeated irrespective of this particular mapping function. And here you have recorded the number of times. Finally, you are combining this and you are returning that in this particular text file, beer is repeated 2 times, car is repeated 3 times, deer is repeated 2 times, river is repeated 2 times. So you can write also MapReduce program in order to implement this program. This program is saying MapReduce program for word count process. Given a particular text file, you have to determine how many times each and every word is repeated. So that can be done using the MapReduce process. So similarly, if you go for Open Grid Service Architecture, that is called as OGSA, right? This grid architecture says that define various standards, right? Like OGSA architecture, if you see, there are some of the toolkits that is used in the grid, right? Specifically for grid computing applications, there are many types of toolkits are there. One of the very famous toolkit is called as Globos toolkit, or it is also called as Globos architecture. Another tool is also provided by IBM, that is called as IBM Grid Toolbox architecture, right? So OGSA is a architecture, Globos is a architecture, IBM Grid is also architecture. So if you see the security policies, in each and every one, the security policies are different. For example, here we are using certification authority. What is certification authority? Like a user A want to communicate with B. So in between A and B, there is a common unit should be there, who can share the details of A or B to the reverse person, right? For example, I want to communicate B with B. The B details I want to get. So who will get? How I will get that information? By the help of a certification authority. So this certification authority is also keeping the public key of A or private key of public key of A, public key of B, and private key of it also aware of the private key of the both parties, right? So that it can establish a public private key pair in order to authenticate that whether A is a genuine user or B is a genuine user or not. Similarly, these are the various security algorithm like PKI, public key infrastructure, or you can say Kerberos is a very popular algorithm. These are used in the Globos toolkit, right? Similarly, here grid services or support grid application using Java or grid map in the IntraGrid for security update. These are the various things that is used in the IBM Grid toolkit. So now if I'll ask which one is a middleware? Which one is a middleware? Can anybody answer? Which one is a middleware?
MOSIX.
Mosix X plus OS is a middleware. So Mosix X2 is a
Truly distributed.
Yeah, truly distributed system. Zigbee is a sensor one, right? For sensor, we are collecting the information from various sources for which we are using Zigbee. And XML is a language, right? Which is used in the WSDL of SOA architecture. So we'll stop here. In the next class, we'll discuss about the last part of this unit that is called as performance, security, and energy efficiency.